So I want to thank everybody for signing up, registering for our free masterclass on using Google's local service ads. Today, it's really going to be a game changer for you. I think we're going to show you really how to use this. I want to say a newer type of Google ad, although it's not all that new, but it's something that a lot of people don't know about. And we're going to show you how you can really get a much stronger return on investment for your ad spend. So what you need to do right now is I'm just going to have you turn off your cell phones. I'm going to have you shut down Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is that your social platform choice is. So we're going to really pay attention. We're going to get engaged here. If you are a kitchen remodeling business, if you are a plumbing and HVAC and electrician, anybody in the home services space really, even if you're just in any space that allows people to purchase your services in their home, this is going to be a game changer. I'm going to show you how you can maximize the effectiveness of a very special type of Google ad over the next 30 to 60 minutes. Now, if you have a question while we're going on, just jump in and be happy uh, to answer those best we can. So, what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about these Google local service ads and what is Google local services. We're going to talk about where you can use these, where it's active, how to use these, what exactly you can do in order to generate results without getting people to have to just look at your landing pages, without getting people to simply click on an ad and then disappear. We're going to talk about how you use these to get phone calls and to get form fills. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you jump on board. If you're not already using local service ads, how do you start using them? Where do you go to sign up? Who do you talk to if you need to get some help? We're going to talk about what it takes to rank in the top three. And what I mean by that is you need to get impressions. If your ad is not being seen, then what good is it, right? So there are certain things that you're going to want to do in order to make sure you maximize the impression, maximize the impression share, and make sure that when someone is searching for kitchen remodeler near me, cabinet store near me, whatever it might be, that you show up. And really how you take advantage of these high quality leads at a low CPL, at a low cost, and how do you maximize that ROI? All right, so let's start with the basics. What is Google Local Services? So in the past, you could run a Google ad that would be based on a keyword. Someone searches for a keyword, ad shows up, click on it. You're going to pay for that click. They're going to go to a landing page. And then you're hoping that they're going to take action. Maybe they'll call you, maybe they'll fill out a form, maybe they'll download something, depending on what your conversion was. Well, these are a new type of ad. And what we're doing here is we are making sure that our ads are showing up above the search ad, you're getting Google. So Google is actually giving you that little green check mark you see there. And what these are ads that they don't make an offer. They simply are providing your name, your reviews, how long you've been in business, and then the goal here is just to drive phone calls. So what what does this actually mean though to the end user, and what does it mean to you? Well, what it means is that these ads aren't just the standard everyday anybody buys in. These are Google guaranteed. So Google is going to actually go through a process of checking your credentials, of making sure that you are a licensed contractor. Now, if you are in the kitchen remodeling space and you are not a general contractor or you are not a licensed carpenter, you cannot run these ads. You are going to need somebody who is licensed. So that's a big piece. And where does all of this kind of fit into the overall landscape? So let's look at a traditional Google search result page. And what you're going to see is at the very top, we've got these Google local service ads. Google has screened this person. Under that, you're going to see that we have a actual Google search ad. So that's something where if somebody clicks on that, you're going to pay every time they click, whether or not they contact you. Then we get into our SEO results, our maps, our people also ask, and our organic listings. So you can see that in the grand scheme of things, having that local service ad is going to put you above the fold. It's going to be the first thing people see. And again, most importantly, it adds that sense of trust. You got to think about this. What is what's the best type of lead you can get? Well, it's a referral. Okay, a referral is something that you somebody has told someone you have worked with or someone who knows about you has given your name and said this person's a great person. Well, in the digital space, the next best thing to an actual personal referral is who is the most trusted source on planet Earth. For better or worse, whether you like it or not, it's Google. And in this situation, Google has gone through the process of screening you, and they're saying, yes, we have screened this particular contractor, this company. They are a good company to work with, and Google will stand behind that. So, why does it matter? Well, think about this. 87% of consumers search Google when they're looking for home service providers. So, only 13% of the people who could even potentially be your audience aren't going to go to Google first. It's the number one place your customers are looking when they need your services. Sure, people are going to Yelp. Sure, people are opening up the yellow pages still. I'm sure there's one or two of them out there. Yes, people are listening to the radio, watching TV. There's all kinds of places you can advertise. But where does everybody start that search? It's on Google. So local service ads come up first, like we showed you before. Whether you're on mobile, whether you're on desktop, doesn't matter. These ads are going to be the first thing somebody sees. And again, like it or not, people for the most part don't have a real long attention span, and they're not scrolling down to the bottom of page one, let alone organically finding you on page two and three. They're going to go with the first people they see. They want to know that someone's got some reviews, and they want to have a conversation. And you can't make a sale if you don't have a conversation. So that's why these ads are so important, because they're targeting people who only want to have conversations. Um, Now, there's no higher intent than someone who is actively looking for you at the time. So so when you compare this to, for example, a social media ad, like a Facebook ad, like an Instagram ad, TikTok, where you are being targeted based on your online behavior, your propensity to possibly want something, that lead's not going to be as strong as someone who's physically gone to Google and they have said, show me someone who can install my new white shaker kitchen cabinet. And you're going to pop up there. So in order to work with Google local service ads, though, you do need to have a plan to win, right? This isn't something as simple as set and forget. You don't just fill in an application one time and walk away and that's it. There is a lot to do with engagement. There's a lot to do with dialing in your ads, making subtle adjustments to your budgeting, making sure that you're uploading photos, that you're telling Google about your experience, that other people are telling Google about their experience with you, and there are things you can do to encourage that. So let's talk about where this is active. Well, the good news is just about everywhere. As these Google local service ads started to roll out, they were only in select markets, only really in select niches. So, for example, maybe a personal injury lawyer, an electrician, a plumber. That was really it. Maybe a doctor. At this point, though, these are becoming commonplace, and really any specialty where you are providing a home service, or really providing any kind of professional service for that matter, you can run Google local service ads across the US. Now, if you are one of our friends to the north in Canada, these aren't always available there. And if that's the case, I would recommend, if you are Canadian, give us a call. We can check into this for you, or even just, go through the application process. One of the things it's going to ask you is where are you? What's your postal code? What is your niche? And Google will tell you whether or not the ads are available for you. Now, how Google local service work? Well, first thing is, like I said, you've got to get verified. So you have to complete the Google local services application. At that point, Google's going to run a background check on you and some of your employees. That background check is going to include, depending on the niche that you're in, everything from, do you have valid Google reviews? Are you licensed? Are you insured? Do you have a Google business profile? Do you have a headshot even in some situations? There, but none of this really is too onerous. The biggest thing that they're going to do, like I said, is you need to be licensed, and they are going to want to run a criminal background check. That means for those of you who are a little fearful of putting your social security number out there, that is something to keep in mind. You are going to have to do that. You're not just putting it out though to anybody. There is a verified third party who's doing these background checks for Google, so you really shouldn't fear that. But do know that don't you can't say, hey, that's not fair, this or that. We have heard that a lot. You got to go through the same process as everybody else. Um, so all licensed general contractors are going to have to complete the background check. That's also important. So if you have a company and you've got two people or three people in the company that have the license, all of you are going to have to go through it. Can you get away with not doing it, only having one person? Probably, but you don't want to get called out on that and then get suspended. So once you're approved, if there is opportunity in your area, then what's going to happen is you only are going to pay for actual leads. Meaning if someone clicks on the ad and they don't call you, then you got a free impression. Somebody has heard of you, but that's not going to be charged. You're only paying for real leads. So we've seen leads going anywhere from $35 to $75, sometimes even more in the home services space. It really depends on the area. The more competition in your area, the higher the cost, obviously. We don't see too much in that low 30s anymore. And again, depending on where you are, if you were in the legal services, I mean, you could be looking at hundreds of dollars a lead. If you're in the kitchen remodeling space, typically we're seeing $50 to $75 right now, um, but expect that to change. So how are you charged for these ads? So what's going to happen is you're going to set a weekly budget, and that's going to limit the total number of leads that you can get in any week. So you're going to tell Google, I only want to spend X amount. Once you have hit that amount, your ads are not going to be shown anymore. So for example, let's say you've got a $2,000 a month budget. Well, what Google's actually going to ask you is, what is your weekly budget? So let's say that means you got a $500 a week budget. It's actually a little bit less, 4.3 weeks in a month. $71 a day. So if the cost of lead is $35, again, that's very low, just in complete transparency here. 57 leads per month, 14 leads a week, 2 leads a day. Once that budget is spent, your ads are not going to be shown. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you understand how many leads that you want. And think of this, that you are buying the leads here. You're not buying the clicks. So it's also really important that you answer your phone, that you engage with people, because you are paying for that lead, and you're going to pay a lot more for this than you are for a simple click, because these are a better lead, but they're going to have a conversation with you. All right. So you might get a different number of leads from day to day. Ultimately, though, at the end of the month, your budget is going to determine how much you get. And you have the ability to immediately dispute leads also, which is really important. So for example, if you're running, a cabinet store, and someone who does office cleaning sees your ad running and they say, oh, these guys must have some money. I'm gonna call them through this ad, and I'm gonna offer my services to vacuum your carpeting every week. That is not a legitimate lead, and you can dispute it. Now, one thing that's really important to note is, at the more you dispute leads, Google tells you that, well, they'll credit you and they won't charge you for it, but they will, or they could possibly hold that against you in terms of your impressions. So that's something you want to consider. Is we always recommend that you don't dispute anything unless you absolutely have to. So what kind of leads don't count though? What are leads that are disputable? Well, obviously anyone who's trying to sell you a service or a product. If you it's a pre-recorded call, if it's a bot that called you, that's not a lead. But the bigger things that, and those are leads that you do want to dispute. The bigger ones are oftentimes you might get a call from outside your area, but is it that far outside? You may get a call for a service you don't technically offer. Maybe we're doing kitchen remodeling and someone called, hey, I'm just looking to have a backsplash put in. Well, that's a $500 service. We really don't want to be dealing with that. That's not what we're advertising for. It's still someone who's looking for essentially the service that you're providing. So you don't want to dispute that. What you might do though is you can certainly, in the reporting, this was not a good lead because they're not looking for the full service. And Google is going to be able to use the feedback to better target the next lead that you're going to get. So feedback from users that we have worked with, I think is something that's really important to kind of take into consideration. I mean, you don't want to just take my word for it. One of the things that we hear a lot is that the lower cost per real lead than PPC. And what I mean by that is you might end up paying $5 a click on PPC and you might end up paying $50 for a lead. But did you need to get 15 people to click before you got a single phone call? Well, if that's the case, the real cost per that lead on the PPC end was $75. So you don't want to get hung up on the cost per click versus cost per lead, but really look at what is a lead to you and try and really measure apples to apples. Number two, higher quality leads than you're getting on Home Advisor, than you're getting on all these shared services on Yelp and things like that, even if they're not shared services. Because again, these are people who are actively searching and they're people who are going through a pre-qualification criteria. Um, Now you're still going to get price shoppers. There's no doubt. You're still going to get people who are going to contact all three people in the local searches, and they're going to go down. They're going to click on a maps lead or map result and all of that. So it is really important that you answer your phone right away. If you don't have the ability to answer your phone, if you are a solo and you're the only person in the shop, and sometimes you're working on a job, sometimes you're quoting a job, sometimes you're on the phone, better option to do would be to put in place some sort of an answering service. Ideally, in today's emerging technology world, there are some really great AI technologies that are going to allow you to answer that call and literally schedule that person directly into your calendar. Stick around to the end. We're actually going to talk about one of the ways that we do that and how we can actually help you implement that. Also, we're finding that we're getting a really strong return on investment from most of our clients who have jumped on board. Why? Because you are only paying for actual leads. You're not paying for clicks anymore. So now at the end of the day, it's up to you to sell. Now, listen, if you're not great at sales, well, there's plenty of people out there that can coach you. There are plenty of growth partners that can help you with this. But ultimately, if you can sell, you're going to get those at bats, and you're only going to pay for people who actually want to have that conversation with you. So why you know why is this really a big deal? Well, again, we're going to show up at the top of the results. We're only paying on a per lead basis. It's a lower cost for the actual lead. Again, I want to clarify that it's a low cost for the lead than a pay per click. We're going to get higher quality leads than Home Advisor, than Yelp, than people that you're targeting via social media, because these are people who are actively looking, and they now know that you are a verified, Google guaranteed, Google approved vendor. Um, you have the ability to modify your budget based on the schedule. So if you want to get more appointments, we can increase the schedule. We can increase the budget. If you say, listen, I can't take another project on for the next 3 weeks, well, we can decrease it. And maybe I just want to continue. I want to be seen because I want to be the most well-known remodeler in my area, but I don't necessarily need more projects. So that's a big piece. Is you can turn the faucet up. You can. So it's. I mean that's always a big question. Sounds great, right? But what do you do? How do I get moving? So in order to start the application process, you want to go to adwords.google.com/local services/sign up. You want to have your Google account. Ideally, you should have a Google business profile as well, because they're going to pull your reviews from there initially. Um, Okay, and then what's going to happen is you're going to see a screen very much like this, and it's going to start going through the verification process. You're going to be uploading certain documentation. So once you go through that application process and you have been approved, you've passed the licensing test, it's not a test, but you've passed the license check, you've passed the check on insurance, the criminal background check, that you've got at least one review, hopefully a lot more than that, because reviews are going to be a conversion metric. How does ranking work? All right, so your proximity to a potential customer's location is really going to be big. The closer you are to where somebody is looking, that factors into the algorithm in terms of how often you're going to show up. Your review score and the number of reviews that you receive, particularly verified reviews, on Google are going to play into this. Now, one of the things to keep in mind with that is that Google local service ads has their own review section separate from your Google business profile. They Now the local service ad reviews will merge and be added to your profile, and vice versa. But Google is going to prioritize people who have more verified reviews, and these are reviews that come from the local service ad. One of the things that happens is once you work with somebody, you called somebody or someone called you, excuse me, and they hired you from the local service ad. When you signal to Google, yes, I worked with this person or I finished the project, they're going to get an email from Google that's going to ask them to rate you. So those ratings are viewed as verified reviews and they're way more important. So keep that in mind. Your responsiveness to customer inquiries is massive. Again, you've got to answer your phone. If you get 5 phone calls and you only answer 3 of those, that means 40% of the time your calls went unanswered. Google takes that into their ranking factors, and your impressions will drop like a stone, if not just completely be shut off if you don't answer your phones. For that reason, we strongly recommend an AI appointment setter. Um, Now, the next thing to look at is when your ads are running. Well, you set your business hours initially, and when those business hours are, have expired, meaning if I only work 8 to 5, your ad's not going to be seen at 6 o'clock at night. So keep that in mind. If you say I'm open 24 hours a day, though, and you're not, and you don't have that AI appointment center, you can have a lot of unanswered calls, and your ads are going to stop running. So whether you've received any serious or repeated complaints about your business is going to be a big thing. Again, the ranking factor in this comes down to engagement. So the more that you engage with somebody, or the more that you engage with not somebody, but with your client base, the stronger that Google sees your company. In addition to these ranking factors, Google's going to try and spread out the leads over time. It's ideally you're not going to get 18 leads if you're only looking for 20 leads in a month in a day, right? So that's important. So the stronger your budget, the bigger your budget, the more you're going to get. Obviously, the lower your budget, the less you're going to get, the less you're going to be seen. So getting into the whole aspect of having an AI appointment center is you can actually create a bot that will have a human voice. You can use something like 11 Labs. There's all kinds of different programs out there to clone your own voice so it doesn't even sound like a robot. It literally sounds like you're answering the phone. And what's going to happen is that you are going to basically go through the process of programming this bot with every little bit of information about your business, your hours, your services, what the process is working with you, why it's better to work with you than somebody else. The bot's going to know all of this stuff. And as someone asks questions, it's going to be able to answer them. And then it's going to be able to literally connect directly with your Google Calendar, with your Outlook calendar, whatever calendar that it is that you're using, schedule an appointment, and then even send reminders to make sure that someone knows, hey, you're going to be showing up at their house. Now, these bots are great because they're going to help you generate a lot more sales appointments at a far lower cost. By the way, if you're going to hire a human, I mean, we're paying in Florida $12 an hour, in Massachusetts, maybe $15 an hour, in California, $20 an hour. That's minimum wage, right? And I don't know if you want to have a minimum wage person answering my phones. These bots are going to do it at 17 cents a minute at the most. Oftentimes, going to be a lot closer to 5, 6 cents a minute. So that's going to be really big. They're going to be able to automate the scheduling process. They're going to be able to check for conflicts on your schedule. They're even going to be able to check how far you are from point A to point B driving distance so it doesn't schedule you. And it's going to allow you to take in more calls so you can spread this out. One of the big things you got to remember about home services is people work and they don't typically want to call at 3 in the afternoon or at 10 in the morning, but they do want to call and have a conversation at 7 o'clock at night. Well, not everybody can answer their phones, but you know who can? The AI bot. So, how are you going to win with these local service ads? Um, you always have to answer your phone. I can't emphasize that enough. You want to dial in your service area, your profile, and your budget. So when you get these ads set up, the first thing you're going to do is say, I only want to show my ads in these zip codes. This is my budget. This is about me. My profile can have before and after photos, things to that extent that someone's going to be able to see and determine, yes, I want to contact that person. You really need to mark your leads as booked, mark them as unbooked, mark them as bad leads. You want to tell Google what happened with that lead, because Google takes that information back into the AI and then it uses it to determine who it's going to serve the ad to next. Now we're going to deal with disputes, right? So if I'm getting solicitation calls, if I'm getting bot calls, I've got to dispute those because I shouldn't be paying. I mean, it could be upwards of 75, $80 potentially. I'm not going to pay that for something that's certainly not a lead. At the same time, you need to use a little common sense. If someone's calling about a backsplash and you're offering kitchen remodeling, yeah, but I don't, but backsplash wasn't one of the things we selected. We only selected full remodel. Could you technically dispute that lead? Yes. Could you get out of paying that? Probably. Do keep in mind that the calls are being recorded. So if you say, yeah, we can do that, and then you dispute it afterwards, you're probably going to be denied anyways. The more you dispute leads, the more Google's going to hold that against you. They'll never admit that, but I'm telling you, just based on personal experience, that's the God's honest truth. Um, so you want to drive verified reviews. Every person that you work with, especially that came from a Google local services, please, please remind them that they're going to get an email, and it's very important that they provide a review. Now, you cannot technically offer them anything to do that review, so certainly you don't ever want to send an email or a text about that, but do what you can to encourage this. It's really important. And you want to target an 85% book rate. So one of the things that I like to say is if my booking rate is under 85% from someone who called in from these, then we need to look at maybe refining our targeting a little bit because we're probably pulling in people who aren't the right candidate. All right, so let's talk about each of these, dialing in the profile. So when we look at the profile, we're going to look at budgeting, we're going to look at job types, we're going to look at, um, you know, hours of operation, all of that. Want to make sure that that kind of stuff is really taken care of up front. So set your budget, open it up if you have the capacity, and watch the budget. I'd say, hey, we'll spend $1,000 a day. That doesn't mean I'm going to spend $31,000 or $30,000 a month. What it means is if I see that, if my budget really is $2,000 and I see after 2 weeks that I'm at $1,900, well, I'm going to turn down my budget. But if you max your budget out, it's sending signals to Google that you really want to get leads. And again, you can turn the faucet down as you get closer. Obviously, you want to update your ad schedule, make sure that your business hours are accurate. Set up the business bio. It's going to ask you to write a little paragraph about you, and that's going to be on the landing page. Select the job types. That's really big. If I'm in kitchen remodeling, I may only want to select kitchen remodeling, maybe custom cabinets. I probably don't want to select backsplash because people who search for backsplash provider, backsplash installation, you don't want to show up for those because that's a really small job. You may not want to select bath remodeling if you really don't want to do bath remodeling by itself. Now, some people love to do bath remodels and tub to shower conversions, or new tile floors. Other people will only do those baths if it's part of a whole home remodel. So be very judicious in what categories you select. Um, and obviously, you want to set up your service area very carefully. Select the zip code. You can also select, hey, I don't want my ads to be seen in these areas. Now, that's really important if you're in a high value service like kitchen remodeling, where we're talking about $20,000 minimums, oftentimes 70, 80, over $100,000 remodels. I don't want to show up in a poverty-stricken area. I don't want to show up in an area where the average house value is $300,000, which means think about that. 10% of that is 30,000 bucks. If my remodels are running around 50K, I'm probably not going to get the right one. So think that through as well. Um, Again, business hours, add photos, and every time you do a project, not just go into your Google local service ads and update them on the profile, but also go over to your Google business profile. Update them there too, and geotag them while you're at it. Add the latitude and longitude into the metadata of the photo. If you don't know how to do that, check out our website. We have a blog that actually shows you how to do that. All right, so the next thing is engagement. You want to mark your jobs as booked. So that tells Google this was a good lead and you are now going to meet that person. If you don't mark it as booked, and you don't mark it as anything, Google is going to actually think that you didn't communicate with them. They're going to hold that against you. If you can't book it for whatever reason, mark it that way so that at least you've communicated with Google and they know this is the whatever was the profile of the person who found you and the keywords that they use and all of that. Google will take that into account and stop showing your ads to people that are similar to the person who you couldn't book. Um, Obviously we want to, so we've said we got to mark everything as booked. Google's going to rate your responsiveness as we've said. Um, you also want to add the customer details in because again, Google's going to use that to determine who this person was, what they were like, what does someone who's similar to them look like? Because if you're booking projects from a particular type of person, and now if we get 3 4 people who kind of share the same type of profile, then Google knows these are who we're going to show the ads to more. Include an email address because most people have an email address on file with Google. That's going to help Google identify who they are. um, Archive non-converted opportunities. So one of the things that you can do in the dashboard is you can select to archive something so that you can go back to somebody down the road. All right, and number 3, dealing with disputes. So you're not going to be charged for disqualified leads. And again, remember, be judicious about this. If they're outside your area, if I'm in Los Angeles and I get somebody who is in San Francisco, well, they might be in the same state, but if you're a 3-hour flight from me, probably not going to be, a good lead. If they're looking for services you don't provide, backsplash is all they want. You're doing full remodels. They're looking for an HVAC contractor and you're doing bathroom remodeling. Not a fit. If someone is selling you something, if they're trying to get you to do something that has nothing to do with what the purpose of the ad, dispute that, obviously. And big, got to drive these verified reviews. These reviews are the number one factor in whether or not someone's going to click on you. So beyond the fact that you may not even you need to be seen and you need these reviews to drive impressions. If I see 3 people and they're all advertising and you've got 2 reviews and the other 2 competitors have 25 and 30 reviews respectively, who would you click on? Would you even bother calling the person with 2 reviews? I probably wouldn't. So number of views, again, it's a major factor, not only in the ranking, but also in conversions. And if your ad is seen too many times and you're not getting conversions, Google's going to hold that against you too. So obviously you got to provide great service. You want to leverage the dashboard to drive verified reviews. So by entering their name, their email address, you can manually send these off to people, even people who didn't come to you directly from local service ads, whether they came to you from a referral, from your SEO work, from a Facebook ad, from a database reactivation campaign, whatever it was. Um, get as many verified reviews as humanly possible. So this is basically what it looks like. You're just going to put in their email address, their name, what type of project it was, the service location, and then Google's going to create an email through their AI system that's going to, hey, first name, I know that you worked with, XYZ company on whatever the job type was in the city. Tell me a little bit about it. And then, you're going to get these type of reviews back. So target booking rates. Something that, we're using a metric, figure out, are we doing the right thing? Are we targeting appropriately? Do we need to do something a little bit different? How effectively are you converting phone calls? This is something, by the way, if you're using an AI scheduler, it's really important. If your AI bot is not hitting that 85% mark, maybe there's something, maybe you got to look at the voice. Maybe you got to look at the cadence. Maybe you've got to look at, are you asking too many pre-qualification questions? Things like that. Just remember what gets measured improves, so keep an eye on it. So you want to, again, just a couple things I want to highlight for you here. Remember, open up the budget, expand the service areas, close out every lead. If you do these 3 things, you're going to get impressions. I can tell you that, with absolute certainty. Request verified reviews. That is going to help you get clicks and calls. because if you don't have those reviews, you're probably not going to get clicked on, and you're sure as heck not going to be able to get a phone call because if they didn't click on the ad, they're not going to be prompted to hit the call button. Um, Use an AI appointment setter if you don't have people sitting at a desk 24/7 or from 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and more than one person, because the last thing you want is you don't want to get a phone call that comes in. By the way, they leave a voicemail for 30 seconds. You're going to get charged for that voicemail, and you can't dispute that. So what should you do now? You want to get with your strategy partner over at our team at Kitchen Remodeling SEO, or if you want to do it on your own, go to adwords.google.com/local services/sign up. Go through the application process. I'm going to complete the background check. When you do this, if you're going to do it on your own, make sure that you have your license number handy. Make sure that you have your insurance declaration page handy that you can upload. Make sure that you can upload a headshot if you're asked. Sometimes that they ask you depending on the niche that you're in. You want to put tracking numbers in place too, by the way. I wouldn't just use any regular phone number. If you're using something like a Go High Level that connects you to Twilio, set a tracking number up. If not, maybe you want to set up something with CallRail or with one of the other tracking phone systems, so that you know exactly which calls are coming to you from Google. What gets measured gets improved. If you don't measure it, there's no way that you know if you're doing good or not. And be sure that you're leveraging the platform. Close out these jobs. My goodness, you got to close out these jobs. If you don't do that, if you're not engaging, cannot tell you how many people have come to us and said, "Hey, we tried these local service ads before. We never got any impressions." Lo and behold, we find out, well, they got one or two projects, or one or not even projects, they got one or two phone calls. They didn't answer the call, or they answered it. They actually did the job, did a wonderful job. Person went and they gave them a review. But guess where they gave them the review? On their Google business profile, not on the local service ad. And they never closed out the job. So Google figures that, these guys didn't care. They didn't even bother to follow up. You got to close these things out. Um, and play the game while the ROI makes sense, right? As long as you're getting a good ROI, these are great ads to run. They're a heck of a lot better than search ads. They're a heck of a lot better than Facebook and Instagram ads. Doesn't mean you don't run the others, because you want to be omnipresent. And these ads are also going to be the most expensive you're going to get, but they're going to give you the best possible result. So listen, am I going to spend, $75, maybe with a cost, having a full marketing agency behind me, it costs me $115, $120 for a lead, and I'm selling a product or a service that's giving me a $50,000 in revenue, $10,000 in profit. Am I spend that $115 to make 10K in profit every day, twice on Sunday? All right. So I hope you found this helpful. Now, if you're looking to have a little bit of help implementing this, or you want someone just to look at your overall marketing and see what else can you do in order to improve your lead flow, I would be happy to talk to you personally. Give me a call anytime at 339-645-9461, or even go to our website, kitchenremodelingseo.com. If you go there, we actually have an ad estimated calculator, so you can estimate how much you need to spend in your ads to generate the sales you want. And you can even just schedule a call with me directly there.